Our next presentation from this is going to be last independent presentation from FIU, developing ABC Success Index to support contractors during pre-project planning. Dr. Mohamed ELZOMOR is going to present this project. Dr. ELZOMOR.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Professor Mohamed ELZOMOR, and I'm at FIU, and I'm providing this presentation on behalf of myself, Dr. David Garber from FIU, and our assistant research student, Piyush Paradanga. First of all, I would like again to thank all the previous presenters. They were very informative to us. I think that's a great segue for me to come in after Dr. Cheng's presentation, where the focus was basically on the method of ABC process. So again, that's a great segue between what Dr. Cheng and Dr. Aziz Namini was presenting, and this presentation was going to be about developing an ABC Success Index to support contractors and stakeholders during pre-project planning. And I'll explain why particularly pre-project planning during the presentation. But again, this presentation is more directed to how can we ensure that stakeholders pursuing ABC would kind of get a heads up of their project is probably going to be successful, or what are the risks anticipated that they may face during pursuing an ABC project. I'm sure a lot of us already know that. So the ASCE has issued the recent report card in 2021, and the overall grade was a C-, which looks like we had a progress in terms of the majority of the categories. However, particularly in bridges, we're actually not having a progress. We're going backwards. Instead of a C+, we're going to a C. Given that some contractors are new to the ABC method, providing knowledgeable ABC success indicators during pre-project planning phase will have a significant impact on an ABC project success. This is particularly true since planning efforts conducting during the early stages of the construction project, known as pre-project planning, will encompass a lot of the tasks for project initiation and beginning of the detailed design and significance of the effect of the success of these projects before we even started. This is a quick kind of statistics about the ages of the bridges in the US and how they're approaching their end life design. And there's almost structurally deficient. And if you see the percentages and the numbers, we really need to kind of put more investment, which the latest administration has actually been investing into, and they believe this is the next kind of big checkbook being paid for infrastructure. So these numbers again show that yes, we need investment in infrastructure, particularly in bridges, as we have previously seen through the ASCE scorecards. But what are the solutions they're providing or suggesting for us? Not only financials, which is the very easy and simple approach, or low-hanging fruits, if I may say, but think of their suggestion of effective planning and sustainability and longevity of the infrastructure systems are a couple of their proposal or a couple of suggestions for them to pursue a better infrastructure systems. So taking this in mind, thinking of an effective planning is extremely important for complex projects. The goal of this research is primarily geared towards supporting ABC contractors with twofold objectives. So the objectives for this project is attracting contractors and helping contractors adopt ABC projects during the pre-project planning phase, and then educating and informing these contractors and project stakeholders of the success indicators, or in other words, the anticipated risks that they may foresee or see during their project, an ABC project. So this is definitely true, particularly in a very complex ABC project where there's a lot of uncertainties that you can't really forecast, and there's not a lot of track record. Going back to what Dr. Cheng was mentioning maybe a couple of minutes ago, that there's not a lot of data that would help us anticipate the successes or the risks that we may face. In the last few decades, studies in ABC projects have indicated that prefabrication of bridges in a controlled setting provides higher durability than traditional cast-in-place concrete bridges. Thus, ABC bridges have the potential to have a significant longer life cycle than a traditional cast-in-place concrete bridge. Considering all these factors, the decision could be made regarding whether the accelerated bridge construction technique can be adopted or not. And there's a lot of tools, as you can see, that would help project stakeholders just decide whether this bridge can be pursued as an ABC project. However, these standard decision tools for ABC may be already existing for contractors. However, is there a tool or a guideline to help contractors or inform ABC stakeholders about the success indicators and their anticipated risks? The answer is unfortunately not. Particularly during the pre-project planning phase, where all the stakeholders get the chance of discussing, identifying, and providing a definition for the project before the project initiation or designing or the construction phases. So it's a very early on indicator of the successes and the risks associated with the project. And this is the main goal of this research. A lot of us have been exposed or know or realized that ABC projects might face some sort of challenges during their construction, and any other project, but particularly ABC projects, when they're very complex, they need a lot of coordination. Then there are expected delays in schedule, liquidated damages, and there are cost overruns. And there is a challenge of meeting the quality versus the delivery when it's an actually, as the name indicated, accelerated bridge construction. So we want to ensure the quality of the bridges are maintained. And this is a couple of examples that we were able to kind of capture through previous research. And I'm just kind of encapsulating the idea of, yes, ABC projects face these challenges as well. So why particularly are we looking at an ABC, or front-end planning? Front-end planning is the stage where it's a high-level stage where basically it's much easier to influence a project's outcome during front-end planning when expenditure is relatively low. Then it is effective and with an outcome once the project moves into execution. As you can see, the green line shows that it has a low expenditure compared to the high expenditure to a high influence in the early stages of the project, and it goes vice versa by the end of the project. So we want to inform project stakeholders as early as possible in the project, before even we start the design, before we decide whether it's an ABC project or not, with all these success indicators and all these risks, anticipated risks that they may see within their projects. Infrastructure projects such as ABC are often complex, absolutely. And contractors need to have substantial experience to thrive in ABC projects. Without proper knowledge of potential challenges in advanced planning, there may be schedule overruns, liquidated damages, etc. Risk mitigation in infrastructure projects can be achieved through integration of one of the most powerful tools referred to front-end planning, which is FEP. This tool has been integrated in a lot of different industries through Construction Industry Institute, manufacturing industry, infrastructure industry, hospital, hospitalization, and then food and beverage, residential. So every industry does have some sort of a tool that would give them that kind of indication or a highlight of their successes and risks. However, we don't have this tool dedicated for an ABC. Therefore, utilizing the front-end planning process for delivering an appropriate scope definition for an ABC project would help owners, contractors, stakeholders understand and expect how their project is going to perform when they start designing the project. So these phases look like feasibility, concept, and detailed design. So all the front-end planning phases are actually before we even start designing. And we took these phases and we captured them to kind of identify the successes through our literature review. So we conducted the first stage we're actually doing right now is the data collection, where we identified success indicators by collecting state-of-the-art literature review, interviews, and then we are planning after we're almost there to provide a complete set of these success indicators and risk assessments or risk identification elements. And then we will plan to do a development of a regression model to kind of come up with a threshold to help these stakeholders identify whether their project is going to be successful or unfortunately unsuccessful. And if it's unsuccessful or there are anticipated risks, what are these anticipated risks? So an early intervention into the project would help stakeholders address these intervention risks as early as possible. This is a quick snapshot of what we have been doing in the literature review. We did a lot of regression models, a lot of text mining. We conducted a lot of literature review from previous ABC library, as well as whatever is available online to kind of encapsulate or identify these factors. And then we screen these factors and we encompass them, or we house them in the same categories that CII, Construction Industry Institute, allocates their front-end planning items or elements to make sure it's alignment with previous successful tools. So we don't have to invent the wheel from scratch. We're actually tailoring this tool to serve ABC projects. And then finally, we will include all this data and come up with a survey to help us identify which ones of these success indicators are more important to ABC stakeholders and which ones of these risk-associated items should be addressed as early as possible in a project. So the framework looks like this. We divided these into 3 different categories: the basis of project decision, basis of project design, and then execution approach. And then again, this was informed by the CII PDRI tool, which is extremely successful in the industry. And then we divided each of these categories into different elements, and we will be sending these elements to stakeholders or ABC project stakeholders, contractors, owners, etc., for them to tell us which ones of these elements are more important. And we actually prepared a survey and identified all these elements right now, and we're waiting for an IRB to be approved to be able to send it to all the stakeholders to give us their input of which ones of these elements we have to make sure the stakeholders of ABC projects, future ABC projects, should take into account. Finally, what do we expect or anticipate? How would this final product look like? We are envisioning something like a very active, interactive dashboard where you can put the location of the project, the couple of decisions that you would like to include, who are the stakeholders, specific maybe demographic issues or geographical problems that you may face, in addition to weather constraints, project stakeholders, their duties, the project time frame, etc. And then this tool would give you an indication or a score of how your project is expected to perform when you start designing it. Assuming your score is low, that's a great starting point, because the tool would also tell you or tell the stakeholder which items or which elements need higher definition, or the stakeholders need to go back and look at before they start designing. After this interactive tool, we were envisioning another kind of static tool that would highlight the results of your project. Some sort of a PDF that can be printed or a document that can be shared in meetings instead of that interactive tool. Finally, just a quick recap of where we started. We were awarded this project, which we are extremely excited and enthusiastic about completing, because we think it's going to serve the ABC stakeholders in general. We are almost complete with the literature review, where we created these elements, we identified the elements, and now we are in the research framework and data collection stage. Hopefully by December, we're going to start collecting data and analyzing these data. And by the end of August of next year, August 2022, hopefully we would have a guide and a tool that would help and inform ABC project stakeholders of their anticipated projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. ELZOMOR, for the great presentation. And I see that you are targeting a very, very helpful tool. That especially that tool you mentioned will be, I think, stakeholders will be very interested in. Let me see. Yeah, we have a couple of minutes for a question or two. There is a question asking that you have talked about some critical success factors that you identified in this in your study to be important and need to be considered pre-project. Why do you think that these are more critical than the ones that already exist or previous standard guidelines?
So the standard, it's a little bit different. So the standard guideline would actually, again, this is a brilliant question. So the standard guideline would tell stakeholders whether to pursue an ABC project or not. So it's just a yes or no kind of decision. But this tool would actually tell you, assuming that it's a yes, then you want to know how successful your project is going to be, or what drawbacks or what challenges you may face in the future, or what are the successes and your strength when you pursue an ABC project. Again, the way we started identifying these critical success indicators or risk items or elements, we are going to go back to the industry. We're going to go back to the stakeholders for them to inform us whether these success indicators that we collected and identified through the literature review and the smaller focus groups we conducted are actually the correct and the final success indicators that they have been seeing after completing the project. So it's a complete open cycle loop. So it's always when we reach out to our stakeholders for them to inform us of the grading or the decision of which ones of these success indicators are higher or more critical or challenging, we are going to open the floor for them to inform us of different success indicators that we have to integrate into the tool. So it's a two-way kind of communication between our research team and the stakeholders outside. And again, that goes back to what Dr. Cheng was mentioning. We want to learn from the industry experts, what they have been doing, what challenges they've been facing, and what success stories they have to embrace these in a future projects that ABC stakeholders would like to pursue. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you, in 30 seconds, just answer this quick question? Would your tool be flexible enough to update itself? By another word, can we at the end of project check whether the predictions were correct then?
So yeah, that's the last stage we have to do. So after we develop the tool, we will get case studies to verify whether this tool is correct or not. So we will actually go to stakeholders and ask them, okay, let's assume you're starting this project 2 years ago. If you use this tool, would you get the same results you had right now? So there is a verification tool. But the challenging question is, can we update the tool in 10 years or 5 years? The only way to do that is to connect the tool with an ABC library, for example. So whenever an ABC project is complete, the stakeholders would go to the website and update their data. And the second they update the data, their data would go to our machine learning model, and then it would update the dashboard itself. That's the only way to do it, but that's not how we're anticipating this research is going to go. But again, this is a fantastic question, and we've been kind of very skeptical about how can we integrate more projects that we see a lot of ABC projects that are going to come in the near future. How can this be part of our dashboard?
Thank you very much, Dr. ELZOMOR, again for the great presentation.